Cinderella's cursed slipper. They say every fairy tale hides a body. This one hides a pile. Tonight, you'll hear the version Disney flayed clean, the court record scorched from the royal ledgers and whispered only after the hearth collapsed to embers. It begins, as you expect, with cinders and a slipper. It ends with the slipper still hungry. She was never Cinderella. The parish of St. Talaran lists her as Elizabeth Ashcombe, age 17, orphaned, indentured to Lady Vernis Grayling for 3 silver crowns, plus 1 pair of glass slippers. No one else would touch those shoes. They'd belonged to Queen Merelda, who danced herself off the palace balcony one midsummer night, feet ribboned to bone. Divers recovered her crown in the reeds. They never found her shoes. Only milk glass fragments shaped like human metatarsals glinting on the riverbed. A court thaumaturge fused the shards, muttered a word that smelled of grave dirt, then hanged himself. The slippers vanished from the vault and surfaced years later on Lady Grayling's velvet pillow. She needed a servant. The slippers needed a host. Elizabeth swept chimneys, slept among the embers, and woke every dawn dusted in ash. Marjorie and Bryn, her sisters by purchase not blood, weren't cruel, just curious. When night settled thick as chimney soot, they'd crouch outside the scullery door and whisper, "Do your feet hurt? We hear them crying." She called it mockery. She hadn't yet noticed the wardrobe in the hall, the one that always seemed to tremble. Inside, wrapped in velvet, 2 pale shoes, counting heartbeats. The prince announced a 3-night ball to choose a bride. The valley buzzed. Lady Grayling's eyes gleamed like coin edges. Bryn and Marjorie shrieked over silks. Elizabeth kept the hearth alive and tried to grind her longing into coal. After midnight, she slipped into the unused drawing room. Moonlight sheeted the furniture. On the mantel, the slippers. No lock, no guard, just waiting. Frost prickled her calves as she neared. A voice bloomed in her skull, sexless and sweet as sugar on rot. It will fit. She pressed her foot in. Too tight. Bones protested. Blood purled beneath a nail. The voice cooed, almost. Sanity flared. She hurled the shoe across the room. It pinged once, unbroken, and listened. She fled to the ashes and slept, dreamless but for distant violins. Chaos swallowed Grayling Manor on the appointed day. Ribbons lost, stays unlaced, tempers frayed. Amid the storm, Elizabeth slipped away barefoot, following the forest road toward the city. Dusk bled violet when the palace rose ahead, windows spitting molten light across the river. At the drawbridge she hesitated. Soot-stained shift, bleeding heel, no invitation. Something tapped her foot. The right slipper lay on the stones, luminous, patient. Miles from her hearth. "You want to dance," it whispered. "Wear me!" She obeyed. Pain cleaved her vision white. A metatarsal cracked, flesh yielded. When feeling returned, the shoe cupped her foot like a lover's palm. Blood traced delicate swirls behind her, but she no longer limped. Inside, candlelight refracted through glass, scattering rainbows. Courtiers gasped. Some clutched their throats, queasy though they knew not why. The prince, tall, hollow-eyed, saw only radiance. He offered a hand. They danced. She didn't see her blood stippling the marble in crimson crescents. As the 12th bell tolled, a courtier slipped in her gore and shrieked. Torches guttered, the doors slammed of their own accord. In the darkness, the shoe pulsed. It wanted more. Elizabeth felt her bones grind like stones under hoof. She tore at the slipper. It resisted, drink still half full. She ripped it free, along with the heel of her foot. Slipper and flesh clanged down the grand stair in a crimson arc. She ran. Stable hands watched, transfixed, as she bled across the yard. Somehow, a pumpkin cart rattled forward driverless, careened through the gate, and spilled her at Grayling Manor. On the seat behind her gleamed the other slipper. Empty. It waited. At dawn, heralds galloped through the valley. Try the slipper. She who fits shall wed the prince. The decree omitted the truth. The slipper will make itself fit. Bryn jammed her foot in, severed 2 toes with a bread knife, collapsed giggling as her veins emptied. Marjorie sliced a heel edge, humming lullabies while skin peeled. She managed a single step before seizing dead. Lady Grayling fetched clamps and a smith's hammer. Metal rang. By dusk, the courtyard stank of brine and iron. The shoe still lacked its match. Elizabeth hid in the ruined bell tower, delirious, gnawing candle wax. The shoe's voice echoed through the beams. Empty, empty. On the 3rd night, a scarlet liveried rider arrived, lips shredded from kissing glass. He bore a velvet bundle. "The prince has sent your dowry," he rasped. "The wedding is at moonrise." Elizabeth nearly screamed, nearly begged any god for release, then heard distant music, the same aching waltz that had lured her before. Longing drowned terror. She nodded. The chapel dripped candle fat. The prince waited, crown of bent forks digging star shapes into his scalp. His eyes shone fever bright, cut by thousands of glass splinters in his blood. "Your shoes," he whispered. Elizabeth stared at her mangled ankle, brown-black with rot. The left slipper's rim glimmered like a polished guillotine. She slid it on. The glass shaved flesh, then clamped. Agony flared, then drained away, replaced by an icy calm. She fitted the right slipper. Bones snapped into their new cage. "You are perfect," the prince breathed. Organ pipes moaned, though no one played. Witnesses found their feet rooted. Elizabeth and the prince began to waltz. No orchestra, only the wet squeak of blood beneath crystal. With every spin, the slippers brightened, feeding. Translucent within the glass, she saw other toes. Queen Merelda's, Bryn's, Marjorie's. A tangle of restless pale fragments. Realization knifed her heart. They don't only want feet, they want hearts. She pivoted. On the next beat, she hurled the prince against a pillar, his ribs folded like wax. She stomped, once, twice, until the slippers flared crimson, sated. Then she turned that hunger on itself. Using a glass shard, she sliced above each ankle, peeled her feet from the shoes, and left them inside like offerings. Crawling through a tide of astonished nobles, she dragged herself toward the chapel doors. Behind her, the slippers sang, soft, radiant, nursing 2 newborn hearts. Some say she died on those stone steps, others that she vanished into beggars' alleys and told her tale for bread. The Royal Chronicle erases everything after that night, save one faint line, visible only if you tilt the parchment to candle glow. The slippers remain unfilled. They sit, even now, in the cracked vault beneath the ruin of that palace. I saw them yesterday, 2 pale ghosts in the dark. I thought I heard them breathe. So listen, if you hear delicate ticks on your hallway boards tonight, it is not the house settling. It is the slipper. And it has only one question. How badly do you want to dance?